Greetings, beautiful being. Welcome to today's movement medicine morsel. We're going to be showing our hips some love, freeing our hips by looking for ease in the movement suggestions that I'm going to share with you. So think about following pleasure and comfort and thinking more about how does the experience feel? What do you feel? Is it making you happy? Are you straining? We don't want to strain. And so it might be a different way of moving for a lot of us, but I tell you, it's a very satisfying and worthwhile path to go on. So we'll begin seated and then we'll have a standing option. So today is sending love and appreciation to our hips and playing with some movements that will make them happy. So please find your seat. You could do this on the floor, although that might be the less freeing of all the options unless you're sitting on something. Starting in a chair is nice. And take a moment to plant your feet because our hips are connected to our legs, are connected to the feet, are connected to the ground. So we're going to be feeling that relationship. So we feel the feet, we feel the sit bones, and we don't want to have any compression or heaviness as though we were succumbing to gravity or feelings of sadness or despair. We want to elongate the spine, and maybe this is fake it till you make it technology, but that works too. So changing the position of our body can change our emotional and psychological stance. So we're planting our feet, we're removing any slouch asana, and we are elongating as though we're pulled up towards the sky, towards the sun, towards inspiration by an invisible cord that keeps our spinal channel nice and free. So that's the beginning. And take a few moments to settle in here, feeling your feet, feeling your sit bones, and feeling the crown of your head rising upwards. Soft smile is always nice. And tune into your breath. Just settle yourself in this new place. And let's take our hands to our low belly, and we want to breathe. We want to highlight this beautiful pelvic palace area that comes from the chair seat up to the waist, from the right side to the left side, from the front to the back. So you may even want to tap or stroke this area, and you can even sit on your hand and feel the perineum and feel the top of your waistline and just get a sense of the volume, this volume that houses and contains the entire pelvis. Because of course the hips are the part of the thigh bone that connects into each pelvic half. So we can't be moving the hips without moving the pelvis, without moving the thighs. So that song that says the hip bone is connected to the spine bone, all of that song is true. It's a great song. So we want to feel into this, highlight this area, bring some awareness, and let's rest our hands somewhere nice for us on this region, this precious region, and feel our breath. And imagine that our breath starts to fill a balloon or a sphere or a container that goes right down into the hip sockets and right into the pelvis itself. So our first step was centering, and our second step is breathing, is highlighting the area that we're interested in today. And now, with this awareness and with the connection of our breath, let's start moving our hips by moving our pelvis around the legs. So let's exhale and allow the pelvis to rock back. And inhale, let the pelvis rock forwards. So we're talking about the top of the pelvis. So the top of the pelvis rocks back on the exhale, and the top of the pelvis rocks forward. Now you may find that this creates a lovely wave up your spine, which is bonus. And of course, nothing is separate from anything else. So we're rocking the pelvis, which is rocking and massaging the hip sockets, and see if you can sense all of that. And whatever other echoes you might feel, say in your chest, your shoulders, your neck. And if you want to do a little session that focuses on the shoulders and chest, you can look at yesterday's Facebook Live. That was focused in the upper body. And so this is a sense of the pelvis rocking back and forth, and you might feel your sit bones like two little rockers underneath. So now what else can the pelvis do? So many things. And whatever we do with the pelvis is having an effect on the hips. So let's put the weight down more on one sit bone and the other one can lift up. And then let's switch. So you're going from even weight on the sit bones to shifting the weight. And maybe you want to shift the weight so it really tips out. Woo! Or what you can do is shift the weight and then shorten that side. Sorry, shorten the other side. Shorten the other side. And so when one hip lifts up, the armpit comes towards it. And then maybe the ear is also moving because we've got the whole spine. So sometimes we do what we call isolations in belly dance technique, and we're moving one part of the body while all other parts are still. I'm not a fan of that anymore. That's just my particular current opinion, because I find that when I allow the rest of the body to complement what's happening in a highlighted part of the body, I don't have pain. So I'm just going following the pleasure ease principle for myself. So here we've got a rocking, and maybe you notice one side is freer than the other. We might have a habit of only lifting one hip. And that could even be because, and this is my own personal opinion, because of toileting habits. Think about it. If you're sitting on the toilet and you're wiping your butt, do you always do it one way? Do you do the other way? I had to train myself to get comfortable pretending that I'm equalizing. I've done this, 3-4 times a day for an entire lifetime? So it's time to practice and get the freedom on the other side. So that's just a little, I'm an anatomy nerd among many other things, so that's just a little aside there. Maybe it resonates for you. So now we might be feeling a little bit wiggly. And so we've done front and back, and we've done side to side. Let's place our hands on our hips and take all of those movements into a little circle. So we're rolling back, we're shifting to one sit bone, we're rolling forwards. And have some fun with this. Make it really scrumptious. Maybe your movement is very small, as though it's happening deep inside. The circles are, something's rolling deep inside you, or maybe you feel like you want to really circle. But don't cheat. I have seen it all. Don't get into the chest. That's another session. Get into the hips. The chest will be responding, but it's not the star of the show at the moment. The pelvis is the star of the show. And in our society, the pelvis is often, especially for women, it's like, lock it down, lock it down. Be a good girl, lock it down. So here we are, reclaiming the freedom of our body as movement as a neutral place. Okay, so that's the pelvis and the hips a little bit. And we'll do one more thing for the thighs, because the pelvis and the thighs make the hip socket. So we've been focusing on pelvic movements around the thighs. Now let's do a little bit for the thighs with the pelvis a little quieter. So let's slide one foot out, and you might not see it, but I got the toes up. So we're resting on the heel, and the angle is just a comfortable angle for you. And let the toes wave in and out. So since you can't see my foot, look at my hand. So I'm doing this with my toes, and I'll put my hands on my thigh so you can see that the rocking of the toes, like a slow motion windshield wiper, is giving my thigh some rolling in and out of a quieter pelvis. And just do a couple more of those. And then slide that foot back in and maybe wiggle a little bit, see how that feels. And of course, we're going to do it with the other side. So slide that foot out, you're sitting quietly tall, and the toes are wafting in and out. And you're noticing how that movement is connected to the thigh bone. Or you might want to focus on thinking the thigh bone is like a rolling pin. Easily, just comfortably, slowly, smoothly. And we'll let that go, bring that foot back in. And this is the point where, if you like, you can come and stand up with me. We'll do one more loosener for the hip, because here we're working on the premise of cultivating ease. We're not looking to stretch out any hips or muscles. We're looking to find comfort, ease, and freedom in the joints themselves. So standing in a more or less parallel position, nice and tall, slide one foot back a little bit and lift the heel. So if I'm looking down at a clock, I'm working with my right leg, might look like your left leg, but if it's your right leg, the clock you're looking down at, that foot is maybe at 4 or 5 o'clock. If you're working with your left leg, that foot is at 7 or 8-ish o'clock. So just somewhere comfortably back, not straight back, not out to the side, but a little bit back on the diagonal. Grow tall through the crown of the head and start to pump that knee gently forward and back. And let that start to speed up a little bit until it becomes almost like a wave or a shake. Now you're still feeling you're stretched upwards. If your shoulders like it, you can even reach up with your hands. And you want to get a nice loose shake the jelly, shake the hip. So this is the beginning of a shimmy. Nice loosening action. And just notice where you feel it. And don't worry if it feels stiff. It took me years, years of being open. Because if we judge ourselves, if we're not getting something right away, that's already game over. This is play and experiment. And just shake that out and see how that feels. See how that feels. Compare and contrast the two hips. And now the other hip. So slight diagonal backwards. Left leg, 7 or 8 o'clock. If you're looking down at the clock, 12 in front, 6 behind. Or 4 or 5 o'clock if you've got the right leg. And we're just going to bend the knee, and you can decide too far back is not going to work. You want to have freedom in the knee being able to pump forward and back, and we don't want to collapse with that hip. We're still keeping a little bit of a lift. And then it's very casual. Hey, how you doing? What's happening? And the knee just starts pumping. And of course there can be a response in the rest of the body. But we can also take our arms up if you like, or even one arm, whichever one is available to you. You can try both, or one or the other, and then just let that really shake. Let that shake and shimmy. Breathe, smile, yell, whatever you want to do. Make sound, ooh, and shake that out. Let that be nice and loose. Let that go. And see how that feels. And now come to feet about hip distance apart and just gently walk. So you're leaning to one hip and then the other. And you can speed that up a little bit and grow tall through the crown of the head. And then this becomes a nice shimmy of the hips. And whatever way it's coming out in your body, enjoy it. You can shift to one leg and keep shimmying. It's all about nice loose knees. It is also cool to let the heels come up and down. Some of our bodies prefer a little bit of heels up and down. And then if you did it on one leg, shift to the other leg and come back. Let that slow down. Ooh, so many nice things we can do with the hips and see how they feel. And now let's take the feet about hip distance between the outsides of your hips and maybe your shoulders. And we'll stretch the groin area on the inhalation and soften as we fold on the exhalation. And inhale, get that lovely elongation. We call it extension of the hips. And let that come to a close, and then sway the hips out to one side. Inhale back. Exhale to the other side. Inhale back. And now let's put those 4 places together, joining them in a circle, staying tall so we don't compress. And this is the pelvis taking a little luscious rotation around the foundation of the feet. And let's come the other way a few times. And maybe your circles are smaller. Maybe your circles are bigger. But find what feels really nurturing for you today. Remember, it's about the feeling that we get inside, and take your time, take breaks. Repeat the thing that you like the most. Forget about something that isn't really interesting to you. But stay open, make it playful, make this play. Okay, and we're going to do some more with the hips tomorrow because there's so many things to do, but we'll do one more nice thing with the hips. So we were doing a circle all the way around. Take this pelvic half. So be my mirror, or I'm your mirror. And it helps to lift the heel up. It gives more play. So pretend you're making a circle just with that one half of your pelvis. So you're coming forward, out to the side, back, and through. So we're doing a circle with one half of the pelvis. My hand is talking if you want to do this. I kind of feel like I'm channeling a little bit of Michael Jackson, something, there was a moment of kind of, I don't know. Channel the pelvis. And then circle the other way. So we're stirring with the one hip, and we've got that heel off the floor because it gives us a little bit more movement. And if there were no rules, how would the rest of your body be doing this? And then let that be, wiggle that out. And the last thing we'll do today is that, we'll do it on the other side and then put it together. So nice and tall, lift up the heel. You can bounce a little bit here if you like, and feel into this pelvic half and let it start making circles. So the circles are just half the pelvis. The other leg is getting its own circle, but the spotlight is on this pelvic half. And the knee is moving, the ankle is moving. And let's circle in the opposite direction. And you're lovely and tall on top. So there's this sense of suspension and regal quality. You can even put a crown on if you like, or rabbit ears, whatever you like. You can put something on your head and just be magnificent. Okay, now figure eights. So we've done a big circle with the hips. We've done a little circle with a half. We've done a little circle with a half. We've done them in both directions. So now we're going to make a circle with one hip, come through the center, and then the other hip gets to make its circle. Pretty cool. So figure eight on the floor. So let's lift one hip, let it circle around, put the heel down, and now the other heel comes up and that hip goes around. And if you like to add the hands, you can make it kind of funky. But I'm doing this kind of as a pointer. So we've got one hip is making its circle, the foot comes down. When you come through the center, the other hip makes its circle. So we're simply alternating. We're alternating. And if you were to float your arms out to the sides, what might your arms want to do? Or might you want to hold the base of your skull? So we're coming out to the front diagonal, wrapping around, and then exchanging. Okay, now, last thing today, go back. So the scoop is coming around to the front, coming into the center, back, side, center. So we're making the figure eight in the other direction. So back, out, front, in. Other hip, back, out, front, in. Back. And you might find, oops, you might find, I just realized you can't hear me when I turn around. You might find that either going front to back or back to front is your happy place. And if there were no rules for your arms, what would you do? Would you have your hands on your hips? Would you circle around your thighs? Might you take your hands up? Might you bring them down? What might they do? Endless possibilities, and we'll just bring that down to a little, shake it out, bounce it out a little bit, and just see how your hips feel. And if you're a yoga practitioner or any kind of physical movement, just try a little bit of a pose. How do your hips feel? How does walking feel? Do you feel like dancing? That would be a success as far as I'm concerned. Okay, my dear friends, thank you for joining in today. Today was very dancey and very hip-freeing, loving, and I hope your hips feel fantastic. And let me know if you have any questions or comments, and sending you always lots and lots of love. And more hips tomorrow so you can come back. Bye-bye.